Well, the centerpiece of the press conference today is now the administrator, Lisa Jackson, a chemical engineer by training with degrees from both Tulane and then Princeton, who was working for Governor Corzine in the environmental portfolio in New Jersey when President Obama asked her to take on this most significant task. I will just say about my work with the administrator that when you approach somebody and you ask for help, you know, your wildest dream is they will say yes. It's so seldom that they not only say yes, but they go beyond and do more than you ask them. In this case, that's what Administrator Jackson and the President has done, and it is my great honor to introduce you to the EPA Administrator, Lisa Jackson.
Well, thank you, Governor. Thank you, governors, and hello, Mayor, and hello, Commission members and secretaries all. On a day as beautiful as this, the only way to start is for me to say it is good to be here, especially since I spent the morning in Senate chambers. It's really good to be here. But let me be a little metaphorical as well. Not only am I personally here, which is lovely for me, the federal government is very much here. So I'm happy to today announce that just today, President Obama signed an executive order, first ever presidential executive order to cover the Chesapeake Bay. It was signed by our president as evidence of his strong commitment to the challenges of the Bay, but also to the restoration and the beauty of this wonderful national treasure. And it is a national treasure. The President understands and acknowledges that the Bay is a national treasure, vital to the environment, the local economies, and the way of life for millions of Americans. This is a beginning. Restoring this Bay and its tributary rivers will not be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But we should look back soon at this day as a turning point, a time when we all did, all of us, what was necessary to fulfill all the promises of actions that have been made over these many years. And we must begin by recognizing that the challenges that we face are still evolving. Today, the portfolio of pollution and other threats is different. We're working to confront non-point sources of pollution like stormwater and household waste and pharmaceuticals. Resolving these issues without single major sources and without single visible effects is a new challenge. Putting more money into the same infrastructure and the same programs is important, but is not going to get us where we need to go. And if we're going to lead the way, it's going to take creativity, innovation, and foresight. And what it's going to take is a partnership and federal leadership. And President Obama's executive order is about just that. The executive order establishes a federal leadership committee to bring to bear the full weight of our partnership in the federal government on this challenge, on the challenge of a healthy and vital Chesapeake Bay. And I am extraordinarily hopeful about what that partnership and what that leadership committee means we will accomplish together. EPA will lead the committee and strengthen the federal focus on Bay restoration, but will work hand in hand with our colleagues at the Department of Commerce and Interior on plans to mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change on the Bay. We'll work hand in hand with the Department of Agriculture to target priority areas that most efficiently reduce nutrients and sediments in the Bay. And the executive order also features a directive to reduce water pollution from federal lands and expand public access to the Bay. I'm expecting all the federal agencies involved to challenge themselves. And more importantly, President Obama is demanding that we think creatively about our actions, all of which will be reflected in the records that we will submit as a committee this summer. At the same time, we must strengthen the use of our existing laws. EPA is identifying actions to make full use of our regulatory authorities and laws to improve protection of the Bay and its rivers. For the Clean Water Act, that means potentially strengthening existing permit programs and extending the coverage of those programs where necessary. Advancements in clean air rules, meanwhile, will provide sharp reductions of nitrogen and pollutants that fall on the watershed and wash into the Bay. That will include about 10 million pounds of nitrogen annually from a new clean air interstate rule that EPA is committing to. EPA will also implement a Chesapeake Bay compliance and enforcement strategy to ensure that there is clear guidance on the laws of the land. We intend to use the Chesapeake Bay program as a national model, as a laboratory, a testing ground of what can happen when we put a priority focus on a bay, on a watershed. And the work done here will supply us answers to questions that are being asked around the nation in places like the Puget Sound, the Great Lakes, and San Francisco Bay.